YouTube channel or by listening back at ttradio.org. Don't forget to like and subscribe to enjoy more live education conversation from TTR. We hope you enjoy this show.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
Hi, good evening viewers and listeners, whether you're viewing live or playing back. You're joining me, Louise Marie, here with Paul Gannaway. Tonight we'll be discussing all things sixth form, leading a sixth form also from a senior leadership perspective. So welcome. And welcome to you, Paul. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to talk to you this evening.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. I'm always willing to talk about teaching, and I'm always willing to talk about myself. So I'm ready, good to go.
Excellent. Just so viewers and listeners kind of know our relationship. I worked with Paul, was it 7 years ago? Was it 7? 6, 7 or 8, 9 years ago?
Yeah. 6 or 7 or 8, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, back at a school in Milton Keynes, where Paul is still working at Denby, a very successful school in Milton Keynes. And he was my line manager, weren't you, Paul? You lucky bee.
I certainly was. And, happy times. Good department, and you were a strong member of that department.
Oh, thank you. That's kind. They were great, though. Like, it's great. You know, you've been in a great department, though, because even when you leave, you still just stay in touch with everybody and you still support each other. I mean, I think in my career, I sort of got soppy quite early on, but you've been one of my biggest supporters. And every time I go for a promotion, you're always there supporting me. So I'll forever be grateful for your leadership personally, as I know anyone that works with you will feel the same. So thank you.
I'm blushing on the screen, I think. So. Thank you.
Right, well, so Paul, I've also given a brief introduction to you. If you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself, your current role, what you've been doing.
Right. Well, currently, as of September this year, I've stepped back from SLT. I'm currently on a part-time teaching timetable and absolutely loving it. Basically, I'm winding down towards retirement. So, I've done my time at the coalface. I'm looking. I don't think I could have gone cold turkey, full stop. But this has just been an amazing half term, 10 weeks. It's been really lovely just to teach without the additional responsibilities. But going back, I've taught at one other school other than Denby, but I've been at Denby for 28 years. I know. I don't look it either, do I? I don't look old enough.
It is wonderful to work for at Denby, so it's understandable.
I was at Radcliffe before, very, very brief time, and then which is also in Milton Keynes. And then since my time at Denby, I've been very, very lucky. Very lucky. I've had a number of different roles. I was deputy head a year, and then we changed the pastoral system to vertical tutor groups, and I became head of house. And then I moved across from head of house into the faculty area, was Key Stage 4 leader, and then I had 9 wonderful, wonderful years as a head of a large faculty. Humanities was the biggest faculty in the school. It incorporated all the subjects, humanities and social sciences. And then I had my opportunity to go into SLT in 2019 and moved into the sixth form, basically SLT role assistant head, was responsible for post 16. And I still pinch myself. I still look back at the roles I've had, and I've thought, bloody hell, I've really enjoyed each one of them.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I've only known you as a faculty leader, so it'd be interesting to kind of explore your most recent role. Well, not the one you're currently doing, but the most recent one that you've just taken a step back from. So
since you left, I moved on. Yeah, I mean, sixth form was just a gift that kept on giving, really. And I mean, I know that we've talked about the time, because obviously yourself, you're at that time where middle management thinking about the next step up, and I was so lucky that I ended up with sixth form, because a well-respected mutual colleague of ours who you worked with prior to Denby and I worked under at Denby. She appointed me to head of sixth form. It wasn't something I'd applied for specifically. There was applications, spaces on the sixth form, on the SLT. And I just couldn't believe my luck. Honestly, when she told me in that meeting, I just thought, oh my God, yes, I'll take it. Absolute privilege. And I had, 5 and a bit fantastic years. But if I'm being honest, age caught up with me. I'd spent, this came late in my career, and for my sanity and my health, I was just needed to take my foot off the brake and just step back a bit.
Yeah.
Part-time.
All right. Well, it's great. So, you ready to delve in, Paul? Are you ready?
Yes. Let's go.
Let's go. Some sheet of questions. Okay. So the first one I think we've kind of touched on already.
Yeah.
But it says, can you share your journey into senior leadership? So we've done that bit, I think, haven't we already? So tell us, more importantly, kind of what inspired you? I know you said that obviously you're quite lucky. You're working with an amazing head teacher at the time. And she obviously suggested this to you. And you did say that you went into SLT quite late.
Yeah.
What was it? Because you sound like you loved the role and you were like, oh my God, yes. Like, what was it? What was the inspiration that made you think, yes, sixth form?
Okay. Well, if we get a step back a bit, the point where I knew I wanted to leave the middle leadership role as head of faculty was honestly when and this is a stage that I think a lot of middle managers will appreciate when they're working with senior managers. You start to think, I can do that job just as well as you can. And it's just, I could do that. Or I could do it better. I could even do it. Not sixth form role. I must admit that my predecessor was amazing at it. But just general SLT, thinking I can do this. And I had in my head that it wasn't never the right time, based family, but also the place where the faculty was. And I think you will appreciate that the faculty was a work in progress, and we actually started to get it right towards the end. And I think that there was a time at which we balanced out the history and the geography. We were working on the social sciences, and things were going really well. And I thought in my head, right, okay, I've got the faculty as far as we can go. Now's the next step. Now's the next step for me. And then the opportunity to apply for SLT came up right at the right time. I'd also been told as well, because further back, somebody had mentioned to colleagues in the faculty who in the humanities who are working as Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5 leaders. And a member of SLT had told them, oh, Paul's going nowhere, you'd be better off taking this role. And I thought, am I going nowhere? I need to think about it. I'm going to prove you wrong. Plus, I'm going to be able to do that job as well as you do. So I suppose that's how I realised that the time was right to step in. Sorry, what was that? As I said at the start, I like to talk about what's happened.
The inspiration.
The inspiration. I think. Yeah. I think that was it. That was the it's time. And then in sixth form, the sixth form role, because it is so big at Denby, such a big sixth form.
How big is it?
Quite a lot of autonomy. Sorry.
How big is it, please? Remind me.
So now it's it's a 470 sixth form, 250, 220, probably a 480 actually this year, 250, it's a 470 sixth form, 240, 230, 240 in 12, 230 in year 12.
That little math situation you did. Good for you.
I had to work it through there. How do we get to 470? It's a big old sixth form. One of the biggest in Milton Keynes, and in my eyes, I'd seen it as reasonably a strong sixth form. So a lot of the inspiration that I took on was the fact that my predecessor had also been my predecessor as head of faculty, and I respected him highly in terms of what he did and still do. He's an amazing practitioner, an amazing leader. I didn't feel that I needed to change very much. And I was just looking at what he created and where there was the need to maybe take something further.
Yeah. Nice. You're kind of, it's nice that you'd obviously said, I'm falling over my own words here. I'm tired also. There's you doing maths and it's me like, it's nice that you said that he was your predecessor. And it's like you could kind of see, I imagine, your career trajectory through somebody else.
Yeah,
And
but he's younger. That was the frustration. He's quite a bit younger. So I'd spent a lot of the time thinking, oh, yeah, he's so much better than I am. And then, it's when you step out of the shoulder and you step into the role and you start to think, actually, I can do this just as well as you can. But he is amazing. He's still there. He is an amazing practitioner.
Right. So there's one thing I wanted to ask you. Was there a particular defining moment in your SLT career that shaped the way that you led sixth form? A particular moment?
Well, possibly COVID. I mean, I was appointed to SLT in October, November 2019. I didn't know what role I was going to get until January 2020. And that's when, so I was told before January that I was going to take over the sixth form in January. So I took over the sixth form and there were quite a few challenges already in terms of the size. But then COVID hit and then, we just had to do things differently. And it was that it's almost like a blank sheet. It was like, well, it's never been done before. So I've got this opportunity to really look at what we do for our sixth formers, what can be done for the sixth formers. And I wasn't necessarily doing everything, but it was just being at that point of where, you're part of the discussions and you're thinking about what's got to happen. And I suppose that's something that no one saw coming. And it was just, you had to deal with it.
What actually happened? So when it came, because I know schools like adapted to the situation very differently. So I was out in a free school. I was at Sir Thomas Fremantle, and so we were a very small school. I think we were about 500 students at that time, so a teeny tiny sixth form. So we adapted very differently, as I imagine Denby did. What changed for the sixth form during COVID?
Oh gosh, it was the check-ins, because obviously we'd sent everyone home. March 20th was 17th. March 17th, we'd sent everyone home, so schools closed. So we had the pastoral support had to be done from a distance for all of our vulnerable students and our students. We had to just keep on checking in we had to make sure that people had access. We had to think about needs, about financial needs, economic circumstances. Obviously the remote learning. First of all by booklet, and then as time went on, you start to factor in. When we started to dribble back into schools, setting up what needed to be done for the 12s, I suppose, because in the first year, obviously year 13s just went. That was it, and they didn't have anything else. They were still waiting. What's going to happen? Then the government announced about the algorithms. Yeah.
It was CAGs, and then it became tags, and then it became another set of AGs.
And that was such a. But it was so. Then the year 12s, you had to think about what was happening with the year 12s, who'd done their AS levels or were given AS tags, CAGs, because it was centre.
It was CAGs first time, then it became tags. Yeah.
So then we it's about meeting their needs going forward, getting the year 12s back in year 13, how we're going to make that progression work. And then when they came back in, and then with the social distancing and we had to obviously treat the whole sixth form as one year group rather than other year groups being kept separate. Quite momentous times. And I think that was that, as I say, that was like a chance to go back to zero and start again. And we did change some things when because the other challenges we had at the time were trying to meld people who are coming from other schools into Denby. So we take in, so if we're 240 in a year 12, we're taking 80 external students from across Milton Keynes. So they had to be, I suppose, not trained, that's the wrong word. they had to be introduced to the Denby way. And when I took over sixth form in those few months, January to March, there were some challenges dealing with some year 12s who really hadn't made that step. They didn't know us, they didn't trust us, they hadn't had time really to build. They were quite confrontational with other. So once COVID sent all the students home, that's something we started to look at about what are we doing with we called them external students, but we changed the language. We're now talking new to Denby students. And we gave us a chance to think, well, how do we include these students? How do we involve them in our in our ways and how Denby works? And we spent a lot of time doing that at the start of each year in September, October.
I was going to say that leads in. Sorry, that leads into something nice that I want to ask you. Is actually, how do you manage the transition from GCSE to sixth form? Because I mean, that's huge. If I'm thinking back, the bajillion years to when I was in sixth form, and I remember academically, I mean, socially for me, I stayed at the same school. I was at amazing schools at Prince William and Oundle. And it was a really lovely, successful school. It was really warm. So when I made the jump from GCSE to sixth form, it was like, oh, I just get to wear non-uniform. Like I get to style it up, and I get to sit in a nice sixth form area, and it's just different lessons, happy days. But that jump academically was huge. I remember going from like A stars and A's and literally getting to A level and being like, right, you're getting C's and D's. And I was like, you what though? Like, you what? And I remember that jump being huge. And suddenly one day I had a light bulb moment and it clicked for me. But when I look back and think, was there actually a transition? There was an induction week, but I think things have probably come quite a long way now. So what is it you do at Denby for the transition students coming up from GCSE?
So in terms of our year 11s, our Denby year 11s, we start the process earlier now. It used to be, I don't know if you remember, we used to have Futures Day in February of year 11. They'd had their mocks, their PPEs in December, had the results, and then we introduced them to sixth form lessons at that Futures Day, where they come in and they have talks from, well, it's post 16. It wasn't just about Denby sixth form, it was about post 16 options. So the colleges came in, Moulton and Milton Keynes, the army came in, apprenticeship people came in, Nifty Lifts came in.
Do you know what's really funny? I literally, my brain just thought before you said Nifty Lifts, 2 seconds, I was like, Nifty Lifts, and I nearly meant it. Nifty Lifts came in.
Always a winner. They were so good. They were always so good when they came in. So interactive, so interesting. And they always brought ex-students back. They also brought alumni back in. So we used to do that in February, but we've shifted that now. So we want the vision to start earlier. So we do it in October. And we want the year 11s to do this and go to the A-level lessons, try a few, get an idea about what they need, what sort of things are going to happen, so you can start the questions sooner rather than leave it till after. And that has been really successful. I say myself, it's been really successful. I think that's something really good that we've brought in.
I think sometimes, I mean, this is just me speculating and listening to my friends who work in different schools in different parts of the country. And they say things like, oh God, we've got taster sessions. What a load of crap. And we all sit there thinking, oh God, how effective are these going to be? And it's like some schools, you get like 30 minutes and it's like by the time you've registered them, you're like, hi, I'm Miss Pickering. This is psychology. Here's a question and off you pop. And it ends up just being one of those things where you just introduce them to what the course looks like. You roll through the specification, you talk about NEA or lack thereof, and they don't really actually get a feel of a lesson.
Yeah, so we don't, for ours, the principle is the lesson. You teach them a lesson. It's an A-level lesson for an hour. Everything else, all the questions about the course requirements, they can be provided through booklets. They can be provided through talking to teachers. We will, I mean, everyone will say you need a 5, you need a 6, you need a whatever to do this subject, but that's about it. It's the lesson. We're going to teach you. We're going to do an hour's economics. We're going to do an hour's sociology. We're going to do an hour's maths, A-level maths, and it is very much about this is what you're looking at. Is this for you? You do 5 in a day. You can choose a variety of academic, vocational, looking at other options. But the conversation starts in October. And then we keep on reminding them. We have like leadership interviews after the PPEs. That starts that's February, where every member of the leadership team and all the heads of year, pastoral heads of year, and progress heads of year meet with all of year 11, and we talk through where are you now, what do you need to do, what do you want to do. Have you got a plan? And then we do induction days, traditional induction days in July, just like everyone else does when the exams are finished. Open evening is January, so it's after Christmas. So that's also a really positive step. We use the year 12s that we have. They go into the assemblies, the year 11s. They do Q&As. We're lucky in that we're not a separate. I mean, I say lucky. I would have loved a posh new building for the sixth form, but we're lucky in that we are part of the school. We are in and among the sixth forms, are in and amongst the students. So there is that continuity and that recognition and that community sense. So the year 12s go into the year 11 assemblies. The year 12s come out in their massive numbers and do open day. Really proud of that. They really get involved and sell the school. So it's a continuous language about the next step, making and a shout out to our careers team at Denby, who do a fantastic job meeting with all the year 11s.
It's a tough job
throughout the year. They're amazing. And then so that becomes the natural process through results and results days and signing on and then induction. Really, the changes for us, the massive changes have been with the new to Denby students, about getting them in. And we do an induction program specifically for them. It's tailor-made for them in September. So year 12 mentoring days are Monday, Wednesday and Friday, the proper mentoring program. And then either on a Tuesday or a Thursday, whichever fits best for the students' timetable. So they've got a lesson after whenever mentoring would be, or as close to possible. We ask the new to Denby students to come in for bespoke induction sessions, traditionally run by Mrs. Braun and myself, the head, because we're the ones not being mentors. And then we take them through the Denby way, really. We show them around. We introduce them to the right people that they won't know, the careers people, the SEN.
I love it. Sorry, Paul. I love it that every school has a way. We've got a way. It's a new way.
We do. There was a Radcliffe way. I had a Radcliffe way. It took me 2 years to get into the Denby way. But
there was a Wollaston way. We've got a Weaver's way. There's like every kind of way. It's great though.
It is institutionalized, isn't it? It's the institutions. Yeah. You've got to know the rules here. You've got to do the way. It is just that. But these students, I mean, these brave students who a lot of them are making some really brave decisions to leave their original school and to come to ours. We've got to look after them. So we try and look after them for about 5-6 weeks. Just work them into the system. How do we report on you? What's going to happen in terms of communication? This is the mental health team. Find your way around. Put the right people in front of you. Yeah. And
okay. Sorry, Paul. I'm going to pause you there for a sec, just because I've got to make sure that I shout out to our sponsors, if that's okay.
That's fine. I can see that.
Fab. So this show is brought to you by our generous sponsors of Hachette Learning, publishers of PD books and resources. They are supporting great teaching and learning. So hop over to the TTR website, see if you can grab some discount codes somewhere. We tend to do those, or reach out and I can see if I can nab you some. But please do check out their resources online. Okay, thanks for that, Paul. So we've talked about transition. We've talked about your movement from middle leadership into senior leadership. We've talked about what happened in sixth form and how it changed during COVID. Quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah.
I can see the cogs whirring now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take it in. I've got my whole list of stuff here. I want to go for something slightly more controversial. Or do I?
Go for it.
Okay. So another question. Maybe it's not. This one isn't that controversial. I'll save the controversial ones. Something to look forward to. How do you balance academic achievement, PD, and so personal development, and the wider strategic priorities of the school? Because that is a huge juggling act, isn't it? So academics and your pastoral and your PD, like how are you fitting this all in, and like how do you plan for that?
Well, yeah, I mean that's, and in many respects that's the joy of sixth form, because it as a 2-year program as opposed to a 5-year program, it's reasonably self-contained. It has a very clear academic goal. You're here to do A levels. You've chosen to be here to do A levels. And that's again, that's that blending the various aspects of sixth form life has been part of the philosophy that we've introduced to try and reorganize sixth form and how sixth form works. So if you think for us, we've taken it as that sort of that quadrant, the classic quadrant that appears everywhere in education nowadays. So it's the academic, obviously, you know, the results matter. Students have got ambitions. We want to encourage aspirational development. They want to go to the best next steps that they can. But you're right, the personal development, the PSHE, the relationship education, the mental health support, that's a key quarter in itself. Then with the opportunities for extracurricular, supercurricular opportunities that, you know, died during COVID, so they had to be brought back, and we have to look at expanding those. And then you've got that. So you've got the academic, you've got the mental health, personal development, you've got opportunities, and then it's careers and UCAS really. So for the year group team, for the sixth form team, I had 2 heads of year 12 and 2 heads of year 13 who roll through.
That's a really big team, isn't it? But then you've got a big sixth form. Yeah,
big sixth form, 2 heads of year. We don't do progress or pastoral, which I know that some schools do, and we have in our lower school. So year 7 has progress head and a pastoral head. You can't do that. I don't believe you can do that in sixth form. I think they're so interlinked. They're so entwined with each other. They have such an impact on each other. You can't separate them. So we've looked at individual members of the head of year team taking on one of those 4 key areas, trying to balance it out as well. So there's enough for everybody. And I think that's been continued with my predecessor, just tweaked a little bit more. But that's something we brought in to try and get a more holistic approach, and very much supported by the head of the school, that holistic approach to sixth form, because it's a 2-year journey, and it is about becoming capable adults, able to make all the decisions that they need to make for the next step in a way which is still a school environment. So there's still the need to make sure that organisation is there. So teaching and learning still has to be good. The students have to be taught how to organise themselves in sixth form. It's not we can't assume that just because they stop wearing uniform, that when they join us in September, that that's it. They know how to do it. They know how to manage their free periods. They really don't. They're 16. They're year 11 plus 2 months, and it's just like you've got, you know. So we got to make sure that we take care of them. We take care of them as they come through, because it's what happens by the time they leave us in June of the following year, the year 13, that matters. And we've got that 2-year journey. So we do track the PSHE. We do monitor it with the rest of the school. It follows through. We follow the same themes.
Yeah.
But we've been very lucky to have in the last couple of years an academic mentor, which is Sandy Braun, who also, like myself, in the latter end of their career, and she's been amazing, because we've been able to put some students in front of her for an hour so that she can break down any barriers they might have in terms of either academic or pastoral. She's part of the safeguarding team, as am I, as was I, sorry. So it is about looking at the whole experience for the student. I'm always minded of, do you watch Interior Designs, that program with Michelle Gunderham and Alan Carr? Do you know?
Do you want me to lie? I'd be like, yeah, I watched that.
Well, okay.
I just finished watching Selling the OC.
No, I have no artistic merit. I have no artistic merit, and I'm not looking at it as if I'm going to become a career interior designer. However, when we do watch it, because it's reasonably good entertainment, and my wife likes it, and I like it as well. Yeah. But they always talk about when you're designing a building or designing a shop or designing a room, you've got to think about the journey that takes place from when the shopper, the person who's staying in a hotel, whatever it is, you've got to think about the journey from their point of view. It's not enough just for you to think, I'm going to put a nice set of shelves there, I'm going to put a nice whatever there. if they're not functional, and if they don't do the job for the person using the room. And I think that, you know, it's not educational literature, but that's what our role in sixth form is. We've got to think about the needs of our students, all their needs, and make sure that we're planning to cater for that journey through from the start, when they join us in September of year 12 to when they finish of June year 13.
Okay, now you touched upon something, Paul, earlier. You talked about monitoring. And how do you track your students? Because you've got so much to do. I mean, you've talked about mental health, and obviously you've got things like CPOMs and safeguarding stuff. But of course, that's very heavily tracked. But I mean, you've got other things like you've got PD, you've got careers, you've got attendance, because that tends to be very separate, doesn't it? It feeds into an attendance team, but you've got that from a sixth form point of view, because that often drops off. You know, students are like, yippee, a free period. And you're like, no, you're not free. You are working right now.
Yeah.
You're not going to get A's while you're just chilling. But there's just so much. So how are you tracking your students? Like, is there particular software?
Good question. The first thing we did with year 12s after COVID was we stopped them leaving the site, because we had a system whereby as soon as they joined us, we thought we didn't have enough space for everybody, because we're just the end of the school. You know yourself how big the sixth form centre is. It's not, you can't get all the sixth form in there as a study space, as a leisure space. So we'd had a policy for years and years and years that students, when they arrived in September, had automatic right to leave the school site and come back for their lessons. Well, you know, that's a lot to ask for these year 12s. It's like, and as you said, it's freedom. Whoa, where am I going to go? We're going to go to Sainsbury's, going to Subway.
Sainsbury's, good old Sainsbury's.
But I mean, the key thing was, particularly for those students who are new to Denby, we didn't know them, so there were safeguarding issues and concerns there. We had no information about them. We automatically let them wander out in our estate. So we stopped that. We stopped. You can't leave school. You have to earn your privileges. You have to earn the right to get off-site privileges. And at first, it was a little bit like, oh, well, the year group above that. But you know, we took it away, and there was space for them. Wonders of wonders. There was space around the school where the students could sit and work quietly. We used the study space. We've got a nice big room where we can get 80 students at a time, 90 students at a time at exam desks. We take work, and it's timetabled into that hour, and we make sure that they have work. Each faculty, each subject has been asked to provide wider reading, increase their cultural capital, get them more aware of things related to their subjects. So it's about
putting sociology in there.
Absolutely. Providing more for their work, more for them to do, keeping them on site, getting them to earn privileges. We don't report on grades straight away. We report on attitude to learning. We report on homework. We report on whether or not you've lost your lanyard, how many times, whether you're wearing it all the time. So we're looking for behaviours to be shown, which feed into their academic attitudes before we start to think about letting them roam amongst the community. And also it has to have parental agreement. So we send the letters home. We've had a couple of parents who say, no, I want them to stay in school, and much to their displeasure. Yeah, why not? But it's worked. It's changed. I think it's changed the atmosphere, the ethos, the attitude of the students. That you're here to study. You've got all this time. You don't have a lesson on your timetable, but you've got the time to get on. And we use that language. We use that language in assemblies, in lessons. We want you to read this. We want you to do this. And then monitoring, just as you do in lower school. You know, data entry is key. The strength of the data obviously matters. So there's a lot of time in faculty spent. Teachers should be communicating and making sure that data they're entering is as accurate as possible. We know that it doesn't always work like that. Yeah. And that's where the SLT comes in, about holding faculties to account and making sure you're able to really get down to is this true? Is these grades correct? But one of the heads of year, that their academic performance and teaching and learning comes under their remit. So they're talking to students about their lessons. They're looking at the data. My view was to track all the data and then present it to SLT. And then SLT are obviously line managers, faculty, so they have to have the communication with their heads of faculty and then report back to me. So the tracking is just as it would be. I'd like to think just as it would be in any successful school with any year group 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Sixth form is no different.
Okay, so here comes the juicy question, Paul.
Okay.
It's the one that I personally really want to ask. And please be totally honest with this. I know you will be. What's the biggest mistake you think you've made leading sixth form? What's the biggest cock-up Paul you've ever made?
Cock-up.
Yeah.
Cock-up.
Obviously, feel free to leave out names and stuff if that's easier to talk about it.
I made a bigger cock-up as head of faculty.
No, what? Let's look for a sixth form one first, if you can.
Sixth form cock-up. That wasn't in the list of pre-arranged questions.
Hang on, we have what early. Oh, I can rephrase it. We've got what early challenges or mistakes.
Oh, I talked about that. I talked about early challenges. Biggest cock-up.
Yeah. I can always come back to it if you want me to hold fire on that. And you can.
Yeah, I might have to think because
If we get stuck, I'm definitely here for that middle leadership cock-up because if that's what makes me feel better about myself.
There was one. That was very much where I stuck to my grounds with a parent who complained about something, and actually I was wrong, and I should have listened to them, and I did make the change, and I didn't acknowledge at the time that I was making the change for the right reason, but actually now I look back and thinking, I'm such an idiot.
Was that sixth form or middle leadership role?
That was middle leader. That was head of faculty. Changes. You see, biggest mistakes. Yeah, I suppose. Anecdotally, I mean, I remember arguing against the mobile phone ban.
Oh, have you got a mobile phone ban?
Yeah, and I mean, not for sixth form. I fought for sixth form, but I remember arguing around the table at SLT and arguing, and I was wrong. I was just totally wrong. I'd missed.
In what way though? Because surely that's an opinion thing.
It was, but I hadn't. But I was, I hadn't done enough. It was all opinion, and I hadn't done enough of the thinking and then the research about actually. And I was sticking to my grounds, and I've been proved so wrong because it has been a real change at school, been a real positive.
I mean, it's difficult because you say you've not got a ban for sixth form.
No.
What's your thinking behind that? Because I know a lot of schools are thinking about, more of a main school thing, but maybe thinking, do we bring this in at sixth form too? Because there is some research that suggests that focus is better, attention, engagement is more meaningful. It's not superficial engagement. It's not some kind of illusion. They're actually cognitively thinking harder. There's less distractions. Why have you still allowed that at sixth form?
Yeah, so we've allowed. It's not a blanket use. We've allowed it with caveats. So if the teacher asks you to put it away, you put it away. Yeah. It's that sixth formers can have it, so they can have it visible, provided they are sat down. We make an assumption that they've got it out while they're sat down. They are possibly using it for work as a device. Not everyone has their own laptop, but as soon as they stand up. And that's in the public area, in the street that we have. As soon as they stand up, it has to go in their pocket. They are not allowed to walk around anywhere in school with it visible, and it's confiscated. Earphones, earbuds, headphones, they're all the same. It cannot be visible. They must be put away. So it is use with responsibility. Some, if you step over the line, this is the line for you. And in the sixth form centre, you can use it. But there is a school IT policy, so we do monitor. We make sure that if we find out about the misuse of social media, photography, that sort of thing, that's an absolute no. So students have been punished, following the school's behaviour policy in the sixth form for misuse of their phones and IT, but they're allowed to have it.
Okay, so my next question, Paul, coming up. Sorry, I'm just panicking because it just had a little sign being like your battery saver light is on, and I'm like, oh my god, is it gonna last the show? So fingers crossed, we're going to find out. It's a bit like battery roulette.
Yeah.
If you see me running off to go plug something in, don't panic, team.
That's fine. I'll just keep talking. Keep talking.
But I might have to then go on the floor and pod from the floor. So I mean, okay. So in what ways do you we've talked about a question here about how do SLT encourage collaboration and consistency among sixth form staff? Essentially, I think the big question is, how do you run a large, meaningful and effective sixth form team that are doing so many different things? How do you keep them on the same line, doing the same culture?
I go back to that point that I came from I came into this role from a large faculty. So I mean, I've got, we only were there in the humanities 16 people in that office, maybe something like that, and people who weren't.
There was a lot of us.
There was a lot of us in that office, and there were people outside of the office who were SLT at the time as well. So you've got, there's micromanagement is no good in a team that big, because you just burn yourself out, and it's not productive. I don't believe that it's productive. I think we're professionals, and at that point we're an office of professionals, and it's about, there are clear directives. And I think you might remember some of those. Working in a team, in a history team, there was we'd standardized, but we allowed a little bit of personal freedom about, you don't have to teach this exactly the same way. We'd like to make sure that you've got the right things in there, but use your imagination, use your instinct, have some of your professionalism in this. And I think that's something that SLT at Denby are doing now. They're very clear about, we want to encourage risk taking with teaching. We want you to be inspirational. And that's the message clearly given throughout CPD throughout the year. The teaching and learning team are looking at that. It's nice to walk into a room and everyone's doing what looks like meaningful things in the PowerPoint, and students are working, but where's the spark? Is there a spark? And sixth form lessons are exactly the same as lower school lessons. There should be a spark. They should engage the students. In the old days, and I think we've definitely seen this at Denby, is that teachers think, I've been given sixth form, that's a bit of a privilege. I'm just going to have a chat with my kids. I'm just going to have a chat with the students. I'm going to chat about, Frankenstein or whatever it is we're doing. That's not what a good sixth form lesson is. And so I think for the SLT, it's about making sure that you recognize the autonomy and the skills and the agency of the people that you are asking to do a job. And you have regular meetings, but you're not looking over their shoulder. You've got to give. The whole school has an accountability, but you've got.
Oh, sorry, Paul. I'm going to get my battery. Carry on talking.
No.
While I go plug my battery.
I just wondered, if I keep talking, I'll just go off tangent. But it is about, it's your job. Your job is to monitor. You're responsible, but you've got to give the people who you've asked to do certain things the opportunity to do it well, without doing it for them. So I think that idea of a large sixth form team, everyone knows the role, everyone sees the vision, shares the vision. Hopefully, we discuss the vision, we discuss the students. The students are at the centre of it. I think there should be what sort of feeds into itself. I'm going to keep on talking because you're not back.
Oh, that's fine. I'm still here. Apologies, team. I'm just working around the techie issues. So tell me, what do you think makes, if someone was wanting to apply for a role for a head of sixth form, what key personality traits or leadership traits would you expect to see or hear about in an interview?
I mean, there's got to be patience above all. I think that the ability to listen, empathy, standards. You want to see in that there's some academic rigor, but equally there's the ability to listen. I think there's the need. Those are the key. Those are the key characteristics. I think. I'm conscious you might have lost touch. Skill set, skill. I mean, one of an excellent head of mine who was head while you were there as well. Always used to talk about tweaks and making the main thing, and that's vital. You've got to remember that the students are the centre of what we do and why we do it, and making sure that we've got that. Did you pick up? Are you picking up?
I am so sorry. It's because I put this new faffy influencer light thing on, and it's drained my battery. And it's like, you've got 10 minutes, and I'm like, I can do it in 10 minutes, and it's like, no, your battery's dead. And
no, you've saved me. I was just starting to waffle. I was just starting to say about it's that you want to see academic rigor in the person. They've got to have an interest. They've got to have an interest in the students, but they've got to be empathetic, and there must be patience. They've got to listen. I think those are the big skill sets, I think, for sixth form. But it's that teaching. It's in many respects you're a head teacher, because sometimes the head of sixth can be, as having spoken to other heads of sixth, they can have more autonomy, or they can have less autonomy depending on what the structure of the school is. And under Denby, I think when I took over, it had sort of been given more and more and more autonomy. And I think, whilst I wasn't against that, I think we had to bring it back more into the routines and the strategies that were making, the teaching and learning at years 7 to 11 so much tighter, and we needed to get that back. So I hope we've met a balance between autonomy for the head of sixth, but also brought us into the whole school arrangements.
I really want to ask, and thank you for holding the fort in my absence, you legend. I could rely on you. I wanted to ask you something, actually, because you touched upon talking about teachers flourishing and allowing professional autonomy and kind of steering away from micromanagement. I think this is why you and I, professionally and personally, have always got on so well, because we're so aligned on this in terms of values. Do you have a sixth form playbook, or a teacher playbook, or a way to kind of deliver sixth form lessons? Or is it similar to what you already have at main school, and it's just expected that carries on into sixth form? Do lessons change? Have you got a set standard of expectations, essentially?
It's the latter. We don't have a set sixth form one. We expect the lessons to follow a similar structure. We expect there to be. We use Sonar as an acronym. Was Sonar there when you were there?
I don't think so. I think I've seen it though. Please, can you remind me what it is? So
starter, objective, new knowledge, assessment, and recap. I had to remember what the R was. Not 5 pieces of a lesson. There needs to be, you can have ongoing assessment, and new knowledge can appear more than once, but there needs to be something for the students to get the challenge going at the start of the lesson. There should be a clear objective. The students do not need to write it down, but they need to be knowing what the part of what this lesson is for. Where does it fit in with other lessons? Where's it going? New knowledge. They need to learn something. They need to be some monitoring of what they're getting as they're going through the lesson. And then let's review where we are, how far we got. Do we need to go over that again? That's what teaching and learning. So Denby has a teaching and learning code. It followed on from the previous Ofsted 2016. 2016. And it's been a game changer for us. But we haven't had. I think the sixth form lessons haven't always brought in, and we've got variability. We have variability in some subjects and not in others. So it's about trying to get some form of standardization that students can expect the same sort of standards and clarity in each lesson, in each subject, as they go through. So, yeah.
There's something I wanted to ask. We're taking a slight off on a tangent here, but it's a really, really important tangent. And I know one that you've been really invested in, I think, your whole teaching career. It's about student voice.
Yes.
What is it? What do you do to kind of empower student voice in sixth form? How is it encouraged in lessons? Talking about student councils or initiatives that you've either brought in or carried on.
Well, the students have got to feel confident enough that they can say something and be heard. I mean, that's the starting point. Whether you have a formal committee, whether you have a formal council, sometimes it can be informal. But I think it's that open door policy that the sixth form has at Denby, that the offices for the heads of year are in the sixth form centre, glass windows, and if they're there, the traditional policy has been if they're in there, the door the students can knock and come in. So we want that access. Sometimes it can be a bit of a drain because it can get in the way in terms of what we want to do. And I think perhaps one of my failings, if we go back to our biggest cock-ups, one of my failings is that I probably lacked. I'm not a pleaser. I'm not a people pleaser normally. I'm not. I'm quite happy to tell somebody, no, I don't agree. But I found it. I failed, I think, in terms of telling students, no, I can't see you now. I've just got to do this. And so they came and knocked on my door. Can I have a word? Yes, go on. It's just, and that took too much, I think, from me, and I had to say to my successor, you know, there's a balance between that, and I was rubbish. I was rubbish at it.
It is tough, though.
It is
tough. I mean,
it is.
My subjects, I mean, as you know, social sciences are largely GCSE and sixth form, predominantly sixth form, and we have big classes, and they feel safe. We are the colleagues that teach, you know, the controversial subjects that they want to open up about. So when they open up, you become their safe person. Before you know it, it's every preschool, it's break times, it's lunchtime, it's after school, it's emails at weekend. And it is really difficult to say no to a student, you know, particularly if they're struggling. No, come back. But you're so right. There needs to be not professional boundaries. Of course, they're professional boundaries, as in like for yourself.
Yes.
You know, I've allotted this time. Do you know there are other people you can go and seek guidance from?
Yes.
And they are just as supportive as I will be.
Absolutely. And I think there's that safeguarding necessity, which obviously was my role. There were maybe the other, which weren't quite safeguarding, but they were still of concern to the student personally. Then there's obviously the teaching and learning complaints, and you know, I don't need to hear all those. You can I'll direct you to the right person for those. But I think that it's important that you do listen and then direct them to somebody, and then ask them again, did you get a response? What happened? What's happened? Follow up. But I think going back to student voice, I think we've tried to encourage everybody to feel that they're part of the community, and it's always been that, you know, that mantra: if you can see it, you can be it. And if it's about, if you've got this idea and you've seen it happen somewhere else and you want to do it here, then let's look at it. Let's try it. And you know, if we look at the success of our student representation in terms of diversity, in terms of Cultures Day, Eid parties, Diwali parties, you know, these are student-led. They are student ideas. They've got them off the ground. They have, we just overseen them, make sure they're okay in terms of safe. Everything's being organised properly. But we've got involved. We turn up. And the students feel seen and they are heard. And I think that's been quite. That it speaks for itself, and students come back. You know, the alumni come back into school and they share their experiences with the newer sixth form students. That's something that we've been quite strong with and quite appreciative of in terms of students who leave us coming back. I think, you know, opportunities, making sure there's opportunities there for them. We are excellent at Denby at pinging round opportunities and telling the students, don't bury your head in the sand, don't think it'll be there if you in a couple of weeks. You've got to grab them, you've got to look for them if you want them. Let's be aspirational. Let's be aspirational. If you want Oxbridge, if you want Russell Group, if you want medicine, let's be aspirational. Let's listen to you, but let's be honest. Let's have an honest conversation, but let's be aspirational.
That's something. One last thing I wanted to ask. I know we're pushing time. Viewers probably thinking it's dinner time, but there's something I wanted to ask you because this is. I know you and your lasagna and your garlic bread and whatever. What else?
Wedges, spiced paprika wedges.
It's a carb fest.
Look, I'm part-time now. I can afford to eat them. I can go to the gym in the morning. So
is Helen baked for dessert? That's the most important thing because her cake's so good.
No. You see, I'm the house husband for Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, good for you. You have to learn lemon drizzle, Paul. I mean,
love it. I love it. Yeah, the lemon drizzle comes out, but it didn't appear in the sixth form office because it was a bit difficult. But it's coming to the social sciences office where I am now, and they've appreciated the Victoria sponge.
There's one thing I wanted to ask because Denby's very, very good at this, and I know obviously we have to be transparent with this. I mean, demographically, actually, I think Denby's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a mixed demographic. It's very multicultural. We've got some students that are quite affluent. You've got some that are on the opposite end of the spectrum that are, falling into the deprivation index.
Yes.
Lots of EAL students.
Particularly at sixth form as well, where they can come from much further afield, definitely.
Oh, yes, that's a very good point. But Denby have always been very successful at getting students still mindful of demographics, but getting students into Russell groups and into Oxbridge. Yeah. What is it that you do in sixth form that allows students to then kind of move into those, the next part of their educational career?
It's a good question. I'm not sure there's anything different, but the language is there. We talk about it. We talk about where people have gone. We talk about following in footsteps. We talk about we put pictures up on the wall of where students have gone, what they've gone
A
on
lot
to
do
do.
come back. They all come back, don't they? To do things like
They
awards.
come back on
things.
Futures Day. We get we do a speed dating on so the year 12 have a Futures Day at the end of their year 12, where the rest of the school are doing enrichment activities, and they start to think about UCAS. Year 12 starts to think about UCAS or apprenticeships or whatever they're going to do at the next steps. And students come back in, and we get 30, 40 students come back in, and they sit on desks in the sports hall, and it's like speed dating. We give everybody in the year group a chance to speak to as many of these alumni as possible from a range of different. So we get doctors in, we get the Oxbridge come back, we get the the engineers at Imperial, we get the people who go on to do degree apprenticeships to come in, we get the people who didn't go to either apprenticeships or university, went straight into work, we got the army, the soldiers coming back in. Everyone comes back in, and it is, the language is there. Look at what you could do, think about what you want to do. We will support you in your opportunity, in whatever you're thinking about going to do. But we've got to show them. We've got to show them what is there. What's
But it's interesting because you said, when I asked you, so we don't, we don't do anything different. Actually, you do, and I think credit where credit is due. I think a lot of schools are doing amazing work with things like careers and next steps, and that transition into higher education by doing things like having speed dating. But actually, it is rare that you get so many students that come back all at once to do things like speed dating. And I think Denby is successful at that. Yeah. And actually, that's something I haven't seen in very many schools, where you've got so many that are keen to come and give back. And I think, stop me if I'm wrong, that's testament to the school experience they've had, both at main school and sixth form.
I like to think so. And I think you're right. I think, these are students who, I don't want to name drop, but do you remember Loy? Was Loy there when you were there? It might be too long ago.
I recognise the name, but I don't think I ever taught.
Such a lovely lad, but wasn't always the most focused. But he came back in, and he was amazing. He was amazing, but he was very honest and very.
What does he do now?
He went on to do. He's currently at Lincoln doing architecture, I believe.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, but he was very much a social butterfly, and but came back and spoke really openly and honestly with our students, and he was such a role model, and lots of students were flocking to him afterwards to ask further questions. We've had Justin Maroy came back in, who went on to Cambridge, set up his own foundation, and he was inspirational when he spoke to the students. He's come in and done like an assembly with the students. He just had them at the end of his fingertips. They just listened to every word, and he's a representative. He's showing the students that you can leave Denby and do great things.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Paul. One question I kind of want to end on, we touched on this earlier when I had my little battery roulette situation, about talking about skills, and kind of things you'll be asked to interview. Yeah. Are there certain steps that maybe aspirant heads of sixth form or even aspirant SLT could take? Are there certain roles that would kind of make them excellent candidates? Are there certain qualifications you would kind of give them the direction of? Conversations they should be having with other colleagues?
I suppose controversially, I'm going to say no. I don't think there are. I don't. Really, we talk about the trend in education has very much been about masters, MPQ, whatever. I mean, I don't know what the letters are at the moment, what the iteration is at the moment.
MPQ SL for the SL.
Oh, right, okay, yeah,
just finished that one.
They're useful. They're useful, but I haven't done any of those. I've got an MA, but it was a long bloody slog, and it was part time, and it was. I think it's that open-mindedness and being able. Some of the great things have been when I've been able to and been allowed by my bosses to go and see other sixth forms, to go and talk to other sixth form heads. Attending conferences, the opportunity, and you don't have to be the head of sixth form if you can ask about could you accompany the head of sixth, could you shadow the head of sixth to one of these talks where you meet other post-16 leaders or people in those sorts of roles. They're really useful to get an idea about what's going on in other places. I think if you're thinking about stepping up to sixth form, you just got to remember, you've got to know what stepping up to SLT. I think you've got to have that confidence in yourself and know that you can do it. If you've been a middle leader and you've had challenging conversations, you've had issues with results where you've looked at solutions to try and rectify them. You're along the right lines. You're doing the right things. That you just got to remember that rather than having someone above you who you're answering to, you're now answering outwards. So you're answering out to the parents and to the students themselves. Obviously, you can have a deputy if you're an assistant. So there are still line managers, but you're the front facing. You've got to be able to have that skill to really explain to parents why something is happening. And I think that's a skill in itself. That's something that can you do that? Can you hold your line of thought in the face of what can be some quite a and I think another thing, I think back during COVID and some of the email conversations I had with some of the parents, which were abusive about why we weren't doing something and such a child at a grammar school was getting this and this. And it was like, I should have just told, I shouldn't have, you're that public face. If I'd have been me now, when I am part-time with no responsibility, I would have probably politely told them, there's no point in having this conversation because you're wrong. But you can't, because you're that public face of the school. And I think, in terms of skill sets and perhaps reading, some advice for reading, there is there's a book about that. The seven habits of highly effective people, which is not necessarily about education, although the person was an educator, an American. I've written down the name because I always forget it. Stephen Covey. It's that idea about that your private and the public face, making sure that you've got things set in there. You know what the end game is. You've got a vision. You're thinking about what's at the center of it, what's at the heart of this. But then publicly, can you listen? Can you communicate? Can you bring ideas together? And I think that's possibly the biggest advice I would give to people looking for that. Those are the, I think they're steps that, my interview for SLT, they asked us to bring a prop, and I brought a rugby ball because outside of school, I used to play rugby. I'm well past it now. I had too many knocks to the head, but I was lucky enough to serve as captain of the local team. And I brought in a rugby ball and said, leadership is like being a sports captain. The leadership in school is very similar to being a leader on a pitch.
Yeah.
But it's not just about what's on the pitch. When you cross that white line and you're in charge of 15 people and you're communicating with the ref and strategizing about what we're going to do in order to beat the opposition. It's also the training beforehand. It's communicating with the coach beforehand. It's dealing with issues that might be problematic, people stepping out of line. Sport and education have a lot in common.
They do.
They so much. It's character building, but also it's that challenge that builds. That challenge that you come into contact. If you can cope in one field, you can cope in the other. Definitely.
There's also that thing, sorry, I need to sign off in a minute because I know we're pushing time, but as in that's why you often see a lot of PE teachers in SLT because they've had to, build effective teams, how to communicate effectively, to build vision. They know how to pep meaningfully and how to debrief meaningfully.
Absolutely. And they're going to be talking in a way that's not always in our artificial middle class academic language that we use in school, which we sometimes forget is not the language. I mean, obviously we're talking sociology again, which is not the language. It's that restricted and elaborate code. And PE teachers, sport people, there's a way of communicating quickly and effectively. Yeah. And I think, that they absolutely do blend into each other. They're really, effective.
Well, lovely. Well, thank you so much for your time this evening, Paul, and thank you for holding the fort during my somewhat issue. There's a first for everything.
Plug your computer in next time.
I know, it's because I've got my fancy light there, Paul. Look.
Yeah,
Much
yeah.
fun seeing you influence alike.
That's it. That's it. You influence all right.
No expense spared. Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much, viewers, for joining us, whether you're listening live or playing back. It's been wonderful to speak to you, Paul, about all things sixth form. If anyone wants to reach out to you, where can they find you? Are you on LinkedIn or?
I am, yes. I'm just so useless at social media, but I am. Yes, I am on LinkedIn.
Lovely. So if anyone has, any viewers have any questions to Paul about sixth form related or how to kind of get into that role, how to be successful, feel free to add him on LinkedIn. Watch your followers now grow now, Paul. Look at you. You'll be an influencer.
That's it. Yeah. I won't know what to do though. That's the thing.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Off and go and enjoy your dinner and go and enjoy your lasagna, Paul.
Thank you very much.
And I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Outstanding, a world-class vision, a world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could